I truly don't know why she did this, but ContraPoints went on the Bad Faith podcast to talk to Brianna Joy Gray. I don't know why. I don't understand what would motivate her to do that. I have not seen even a single second of it. I have not seen a single second. I have no idea how that went, but I am curious. Brianna Joy Gray's some kind of lore over here, right? Yeah, I don't like her. Like, even a little bit. Though I haven't really paid attention to her in years, so maybe she's more reasonable now. It's possible. I don't think I doubt it, but like, I guess it's possible. If nothing else, she's been consistent, whereas Contra's brain has been melting for a couple of years. Here, I'll just watch the clip. What's going on here?
At some point, Natalie, like at some point, I mean, is there anything that Democrats would do that you would say, if Donald Trump, if the 2016 version of Donald Trump were running against the 2024 Donald Trump on the Democratic ticket, would you say that we should vote for 2016 Donald Trump because his first term was better than his second term?
Okay, I mean, so I joke about like how I would vote for Satan to stop Donald Trump. There probably is a line. I've yet not found it yet of like what like moral depths to which I would stoop to stop Donald Trump.
So
dumb hypothetical. I feel like I used to engage with this a little bit, but I genuinely don't know how anyone can be satisfied by a voting doctrine at this point in history that is just vote for the lesser evil. Like, at this point? Because, like, we voted for Biden and then nothing happened and now everything's falling apart. And, like, I guess we could just always just vote for the... But, like, it's not really like a strategy, you know? Like, it's not a strategy for making the country better. Keep in mind, I voted for Hillary Clinton and then Joe Biden, and then I also voted for Kamala Harris. I mean, like, I agree with that. It was always better they win over Trump, but obviously, like, this logic is not getting us anywhere, and a lot of that is because the expectations on the Democratic Party have been really low, and they've still failed to meet them. So, like, past a point, I feel like you have to put a little bit of internal pressure on the party, because if you don't, and they stay weak, and they keep losing, you're, to an extent, kind of, you know, responsible for it. Like, you're kind of signaling to the Democratic Party that there's nothing that they could do to lose your vote if you preemptively pledge allegiance to their candidates, which to me sort of feels like enables and continues the problem that we have. Like, the country's dying right now because we don't have an opposition party. If the Democrats were competent, they wouldn't have lost in 2016, for one, but they also wouldn't have lost in 24. You know? So, I don't know. At some point, we got to fix that up, right?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So play that out for me. Everyone always asking me to play out my plan. Play out the consequences of vote blue no matter who, because you and others, I don't mean to put it all on you, but ask me what the timeline is. I got to this place because I started asking.
Careful, Vaush, that kind of logic makes liberals go ballistic. So here, I guess here's like the logical proof for how I would lay it out, because I genuinely don't understand what the thought process is. I think most regular normie Democrats, regular, not socialists, just regular ones, believe the Democratic Party is failing to meet the moment right now. I don't think that's a controversial belief. I think it's backed by polling. The Democratic Party right now is more unpopular than it ever has been. Clearly, the voters are unsatisfied with how hard the Democrats are fighting right now. You know, like, they're not happy with what's happening, right? So if even their constituency is unsatisfied, this indicates to a large extent a level of weakness or complicity or incompetence or whatever you want to say. Let's just say it's incompetence, because I think it's malicious to a large extent. But let's say it's incompetence, right? So if the Democratic Party is this incompetent, that might explain why they keep losing elections to really unpopular figures like Donald Trump. It might explain why Biden's popularity swiftly plummeted during his presidency, and Trump went from being a recent, like, treasonous, seditionist insurrection attempter into being a victorious presidential candidate over the course of 4 years. It might explain why he isn't in fucking jail right now. It might explain a lot of things, right? Like, the belief that the Democrats have been at the very least incompetent over the course of the past, I don't know, of this political era. It's a widely held opinion. So how then do we change that? If we assume that the Democratic Party is okay with where they are right now, which they certainly seem to be because they're not replacing their leadership, like Joe Biden was the normie Democrat establishment, super respected electable candidate, and Kamala Harris, they didn't even run a primary in 2024. Schumer's still there, Jeffries is still there, even though they're both super unpopular. The Democrats don't seem interested in changing. So if they're bad at what their job is supposed to be, and they're not interested in changing how they approach their job, like they're bad and unwilling to improve, how exactly do we as voters do anything about this except set standards for who we believe is acceptable to represent the Democratic Party? Like, I've said it loud and proud, and I've said it clearly, and I'll continue to. I'm not fucking voting for Gavin Newsom, because at that point, I feel like we're already tossing in the towel. Jesus Christ, I had to swallow my bile enough with Kamala Harris, but I did it, and I advocated people vote for her. I was in my opinion, pretty aggressive about it. But here we are. We're in a worse position than we ever have been. So, like, what's the answer? Like, genuinely, what is the answer? So you can say, well, put pressure on them between elections. Okay, great. People have been. The Democrats are insanely unpopular within their own party. People have been calling out for more and better action, but still, Schumer, Jeffries, establishment heads in the party, still the same pattern persists. So what then do we do? I feel like we have to use the tools at our disposal, because the Democratic Party that exists right now is not only not meeting the moment, they are part of the general decline. Like, we're already factoring in their incompetence. If things continue like this, we're not going to have a fucking country pretty soon. I don't oppose the Democratic Party as it exists right now because I'm a crazy socialist. I do it because I believe in political liberalism, because I think those things are worth fighting for. Not as an end goal, mind you, but I certainly prefer political liberalism to whatever the fuck we're dealing with right now. And I don't think the Democrats are even managing to do that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling. But like, you understand me. The vote blue no matter who is maybe a in-base argument for voting day. It is not a political strategy in the primary season. It's not good. If anything, it signals a lot of weakness, because it indicates the only reason you're voting for these candidates is out of dogged loyalty to the party, even if you don't really like them. Ideally, they should be liked. That's why Trump was able to get away with so much. It's because his base doesn't just support him for electoral reasons. They like him. It gives you a lot more power, especially culturally, which is the reason why now we think of Biden's presidency as just a continuation of the Trump era. Nobody will look back on this part of history, of American history, and go, oh, and here was the Biden era. People will talk about 2016 onwards as a continuous, uninterrupted block, a time period that begins in 2016. Maybe they don't start it there. Nothing starts at any point, really. It's complicated, but you know what I mean. Uninterrupted by 2020 to 2024, Uninterrupted. Biden was a dead cat bounce of the Trump era? Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
More centrist-oriented people what the timeline is for Medicare for all. How long are we supposed to deal with the fact that 68,000 people die every year from a lack of health insurance? What's the timeline on that? And I had people come to me who were Medicare for all activists in the state of California, who were Bernie's Medicare for all czar.
And again, like, really important to reinforce this. I support Medicare for all for two primary reasons. For one, it would save many lives, and for two, it is objectively less expensive than this bastard hybrid system we have now, where the existence of the insurance industry seems to be to provide incentives from both the healthcare industry and the government to siphon trillions of taxpayer dollars towards Medicaid and Medicare, so that a procedure that costs $5 to do can be charged at $500 because the government's going to pay for right? So those are the two major reasons. Here's a good third reason to support Medicare for all. If the Democratic Party unified around it, it would make the party more popular. Because in politics, believing strongly in a thing that makes people's lives better and then pushing for it makes you popular. The Democratic Party just gave up on their healthcare reform ambitions. Why? The Republicans haven't given up on anything, man. They never shut the fuck up about Roe v. Wade, and then guess what? They got what they wanted. The Republicans weren't even that loud culturally about ending the Voting Rights Act. That was more of a niche case, edge, like far-right wonk thing, but they fucking got it. They got it, man. Even if the Democrats were inauthentic, they would be more popular if they stood behind Medicare for All or something, but we don't even have a unified message on that. We don't have a unified message on anything. I have no idea to what extent the Democratic Party even disagrees with the fucking Iran war. Because they'll say like, well, Trump's going above Congress. He's bombing innocent people. That's true. Both of those things are true. But then the Democrats will be like, but we acknowledge that Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. So if you think that, what would you have done to stop it? And then it turns out that an aide to Biden, right? That guy that we saw on fucking NPR or whatever, not NPR, C-SPAN or whatever, was like, yeah, we were talking about maybe having to do this as well. And it's like, oh my God, I guess like, so do the Democrats even disagree? Would you have just done it better? I guess maybe, credit where credit's due, the Democrats would have remembered that there was a possibility of the Strait of Hormuz getting blocked off. Credit, they are not as catastrophically retarded as the Republicans, for all their intelligence seems to be doing for them. Oh, you're smart then, huh? Then why don't you win some fucking elections?
And their plans were minimum 20-year time horizons, saying that, well, the argument that was made to me was Gavin Newsom was going to get Medicare for all in the state of California, that he was going to become president, and that he was then going to bring Medicare for all to the entire country. Gavin Newsom doesn't even support Medicare for all anymore, obviously. And the state of California, with its overwhelmingly Democratic legislature,
cannot overstate, by the way, how much it depresses voter turnout and disillusions potential Democratic voters, that Democratic presidential candidates are constantly waffling on what they believe. Like, one election cycle, they'll be like, yeah, Bernie's popular still, right? He's still running. Medicare for all. Yeah. And then once they get closer and closer to being able to potentially do it, they walk it back. Kamala Harris in 2024 and 2020 were two very different people. Why should people go out there and vote if there's no guarantee that a politician's stated beliefs will overlap with their actual policy when they're in charge? Like, again, Republicans lie all the time, but they are very, very consistent on, one, messaging unity across the party, and two, pushing harder and harder for the next big thing that the people want. Like, they lie constantly, and they often fail to deliver, but they're at least good on the messaging. There's a basic slate of policies and like general culture war talking points that they always fall on the right side of from their people's perspectives, and they reliably push in that direction, you know? Like, they might not succeed in passing a specific reactionary or right-wing or pro-business policy, but they usually succeed in pushing in the direction, right? Like, you don't get exactly what you want, but for the most part, they kind of like, you know, at least they deliver you something that they can convince you feels like it. But for Democrats and like Medicare for all or whatever, it's just like, I dropped it, you know?
has intentionally scuttled their CalCare program now multiple times, including just recently. So at a certain point, I mean, let me maybe ask it this way, Natalie. How much do you think that donor influence and corporate interests are determining the policies of the Democratic Party?
Well, they certainly have some effect. I think I maybe don't think they have quite the level of effect that you do, because yes, they have some effect, but they also, like, at the end of the day, do still need to get elected, right?
Yeah, but you get elected from voters. Like, voters vote for you, not donors. I mean, the individual donor might vote for you, but that's just one vote, you know? So if you consistently side with donors and back policies that make you unpopular, you actually lose votes.
So I don't think there's an infinite like capacity for corporate influence. Like, there's a limit to how far you can push it where people will stop supporting you.
This is kind of my point, that we saw that limit with Gaza and they didn't care, right?
Like,
I also just like, I don't really care about arguing about this specific line, because it is a fact that the Democratic Party is unpopular with their own voters and that they are not meeting the moment. So you can argue whether it's incompetence or malice or like too much deference to the donor class or whatever else. I think it's all of these things. But either way, the fact remains that they need to change. And they're not changing. So what the fuck do we do? Like, the Democratic Party resists every effort to improve their viability with voters. You know what I mean?
Democrats have tried over the years to, like, I mean, Obama came fairly like with the Affordable Care Act, they came fairly close to getting not Medicare for all, but a single payer option.
Well, Natalie,
fairly close.
No, but they
being
did,
shot
but
down.
Well, but they didn't. They didn't, and that was almost 20 years ago. And it wouldn't have been single payer. It would have been a public option. And even that's not enough. And since then, we've only backslid. Millions of people have been cut from SNAP. Millions of people cut from Medicaid. And Democrats can't even decide on a basic policy slate for what to do about it.
By Joe Lieberman.
Okay, but like, why is it, Natalie? We know how slim the Republicans' margins are right now, right?
Yeah.
And yet they managed to do everything in the world. Why is it that Barack Obama had a supermajority? When we say it was scuttled by Joe Lieberman, we're saying that he was the 60th vote in a supermajority. Yeah. And why is it that it seems to be the case that Democrats are always 1 or 2 votes shy?
Remember, by the way, that a lot of what Donald Trump has done has been just unilaterally through the executive, through powers that if Obama wanted to, he could have wielded as well. And in addition to that, even if you can't get through the 60 vote, even if you want to like continue to acknowledge the existence of the filibuster, right? If you want to engage with that, budget bills are not subject to it, which means that even if the Democrats could only get 50 votes in the Senate, the Democrats could have assembled a fucking FDR-style budget bill with enormous amounts of money being directed towards a taxation and budgeting. They could have fucking rewritten the goddamn game. You wouldn't need 60 votes for that. You could have just done it with 50. They would have been able to.
From doing the thing that 75% of the country wants them to do. But Republicans always manage to push through the thing that only 20% of the country wants them to do.
Well, do you think that, do you really think that like Nancy Pelosi, for example, didn't want a single payer?
How is that? What? Okay, for obviously, yes, she didn't want single payer and doesn't, but wait, is Contra mixing up single payer and public option? Whatever. But that's also not an answer to the question. I don't understand the I don't understand this deference, like defending Pelosi's honor. Or I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. Single payer and public option, the same thing? No. There's a million miles of difference between the two. Is Contra okay? I genuinely don't understand why she's doing this. And also, I don't understand, like, what is Pelosi's personal... She didn't want single payer, and she doesn't want single payer. She's never fought for single payer, to my knowledge. Single payer? But like, why? What does that have to do? This is a very real question. Why is it that Republicans get to keep, like, over and over and over again, get to keep doing things that are incredibly unpopular, but they still manage to get it done, whereas the Democrats can't summon the power to do things that a majority of the country wants? Republicans get to revoke Roe v. Wade and got the Voting Rights Act. Democrats can't decriminalize marijuana or fucking implement any healthcare reform, man. Just like, let alone Medicare for all, single payer, like a solid public option. That like the Democrats consistently can't do even the popular stuff. It's insane. And then the liberals might say, well, that's why they need more support. Okay, but they've had more support at times than Republicans need to do the unpopular things. So again, what I'm asking is, why the imbalance? And can you explain the imbalance to me in a way that doesn't involve Democrat weakness, please? Or malice? That's the question I have. Like, okay, I understand the game is stacked against Democrats. Why? And can it not be? because I don't think the way out of this is just like voting for Democrats harder. That's a very naive, fanciful, like kind of stupid way of approaching this. Like there's an obvious structural imbalance between Democrats and Republicans, but it's not like enshrined in the Constitution that only Republicans get to do certain stuff. The Democrats could also use power, presumably in a similar way. I don't know why they shouldn't. They're not only refusing to use, rule-breaking power that the Republicans use, they won't even use actual, real power they could have used, like during Obama's 2 terms, where he had a lot of popularity and support and, for a time, congressional backing, which still didn't amount to anything. Do you know what the Republicans could have done if they'd had a supermajority in the Senate and the House and the Supreme Court and the presidency? Do you know what they could do if they had an easy run through the filibuster in the Senate? They would pass the fucking Enabling Act like this. It would that would be like an actual flashing red alarms, like get the fuck out of the country before they set up a naval blockade at major ports so Democrats can't leave. They will put your ass in camps. What did Obama do with it? Fucking nothing. Oh, but Lieberman. Okay, would Republicans have in the Republican version, the Lieberman stops them. Republicans seem to be able to do whatever the fuck they want right now, and they have far fewer people and support, and all the positions are less popular than they were under Obama. So why? And how do you answer this question? How do you redress this without changing the Democratic Party? And if you're not interested in changing the Democratic Party, I would argue, in my opinion, you are illiberal and dislike democracy, because for some reason you're prioritizing deference to the Democratic Party over the wishes of their voters, the outcomes that we experience politically, the future of the republic, the goal of beating Republicans. All of them fall to the wayside in favor of the one single good you are pushing, deference to the Democratic Party and their existing leadership. How is that democratic? How is that liberal? It's just contrarian.
I think that she did.
Yes.
I think.
Is there something else that I'm missing here?
I'm just gonna do one more clip because I'm mostly just talking anyway. I'm not really.
Your critique of the left.
I really think people who self-describe as liberal genuinely don't believe anything that can change society outside the state. I think it goes beyond that, because we all know, and again, I'm not trying to say the founding fathers were right about everything, but if the founding fathers could somehow be brought to this moment and filled in on the context of the situation, they would lose their fucking minds for a variety of reasons, like black people can vote or whatever, but if we limit the engagement to the state of the republic right now, they would lose their fucking minds. So what version of liberalism are we dealing with here? Clearly not founding father liberalism or FDR style liberalism, not LBJ style liberalism. What liberalism are we? Obviously the answer for me would be neoliberalism, which is not really much of an ideology at all, at least in terms of prescriptive statements about what the voters should do or believe in or fight for. But yeah, so.
Well, so I think when you're critiquing specific things that Mamdani does or that Biden did, or that yes, of course it's within reason to criticize your elected officials, and we all ought to do that. I agree, but I also think that what my frustration with the left is more that when it comes time to actually elect, the energy is so oppositional to it's very.
This is such a boring talking point to me. Factually, almost every Bernie voter in the primaries went over to supporting Hillary or Biden in 2016 or 2020. The idea that the ultra left of the country just keeps, for one, if we are the problem, cater to us. Fuck you. For two, we're not the problem. It just doesn't math out. The thing that hurt Harris in 2024 more than anything else was unpopularity with moderates and just generally depressed voter turnout, in spite of the massive stakes. She was running against the guy who did January 6th. I mean, that's got to motivate some turnout. right? But it didn't. So, like, it is just a fact that the left isn't the issue. I would argue that a lot of the Democratic Party's lingering popularity stems from the organizing, activism, and electoral efforts of Bernie-crats. Like, basically every dying ember in this fucking ash heap, everything that still glows, is carried over from Bernie 2016. That's where, like, the wine moms and the, like, energetic boomers out there, they are not embodying the Schumer wing of the Democratic Party. It's people who were inspired by the promise that things could be better. And you might disagree with some of Bernie's policies if you're like a retard or whatever. I don't know. I don't really care. But this is just factually correct. The Schumer wing of the party has done nothing to energize or excite people, has not brought new people out, and neither did Harris. Harris did not bring out a single voter that Joe Biden wouldn't have himself, and Joe Biden won in 2020 in large part due to an immediate concern over COVID, in addition to backlash against Trump from his then existing presidential term. But Biden was, always advocated for from the Democrats as like the electable candidate. Not really a person who energizes or excites, but a person who unifies the base. And then Harris took a dwindling cut of that, incapable of bringing in new voters. Largely incapable. And that's how it played out. You can't keep pretending we're the issue, We're trying to be the solution. I'm sorry. You think Schumer's fixing this shit?
Difficult to build the kind of like momentum behind a candidate when it's so much. I don't see this problem existing on the right, where like you don't have, I mean, obviously Trump has lost a lot of his, I think, supporters in the last year, but like during the election.
Okay, genuinely, is she? I don't understand why she's doing this, and she sounds really fucking out of it.
And they show up for him and they form this kind of like unified, like, and some of this has to do with right-wing values around loyalty and submission and stuff. And I don't.
Also, Trump says stuff that excites them and makes them want to vote for him. I know, kind of a foreign concept to a advocate for the Democratic Party, but he also energizes the base. Whereas within the Democratic Party, in the lead up to every election, it seems all we hear is nothing but tut-tutting about how we have to accept the fact that we don't get to have good things. It was the same in all three: Hillary, Biden, and Harris. What was their bold vision for the future? I don't know, Pell Grants or some shit. Not some big unifying ideology, but a set of, moderate, maybe moderate reforms. Just little tweaking on the margins, and a lot of their energy was spent trying to convince people to vote for them in spite of the fact that they weren't offering that much. Trump doesn't have this issue because he just says shit, My argument, though, is that because we believe in things and they don't, and our stuff is good and their stuff is bad, we could positively advocate for good policies that motivate people to vote without having to lie. Like, it's crazy to me that Democrats, like liberal globehead types, will argue against something like Medicare for all when, again, it's factually better than the status quo. Again, the math has been run on this. It's just numbers. It's a mathematical equation to be solved, and it has been solved. Why are we arguing over this? Do you just hate the idea of agreeing with us that much? Like, we can't even stand next to each other on this? You have to drag it out here? Like, you're so contrarian. But Vaush, we might have to tax people more? No, you wouldn't. Medicare for all would cost the government less than the current system. I would argue positively for tax increases too, but on this, the fact that we still argue on stuff like this reminds me at times that, like, the blue MAGA thing is more of a problem than I often give it credit for. There are people who are staunchly against good things for themselves because they emotionally don't like the idea of agreeing with people who want to help them. even though they're not on opposite sides of the culture war. Or maybe it's like a three-front culture war, where you have the fascists on one side, and then you have the progressives, and then you have like, but within the progressives, there's this throng of like really belligerent, economically reactionary people who insist, even if it's objectively wrong, on tossing stones to the left. I'm not even talking about like corporate lobbyists or anything. I mean just regular people. I don't get it. You can do the math. What has Schubert done for you? Why are you so loyal?
Necessarily advocate adopting that, but I do think that, I mean, you don't even support Kamala Harris during the election. It's not like you say like okay, well, we'll get her elected and then we criticize. It's that when you're not even you don't.
Also keep in mind that like Biden was elected, and then October 7th happened, and then in spite of overwhelming pressure from the Democratic base, he lied to defend Israel over and over and set the stage for an attempt at a bipartisan support for the genocide, though it ended up being so unpopular that it hurt Harris, and now it's like overwhelmingly unpopular with Democrats, even with like non-progressive Democrats, the behavior of Israel. Like, so clearly the strategy of vote for them without complaint, but then push them left isn't actually really effective. It's almost as though there is a schism between what the base wants and what the elected representatives are delivering. How do we solve that without trying to vote in better candidates? You know, ones who might actually win?
Even want to get her elected, then it's,
well, because
it's
I have so
that's
much
where
less...
I see the criticism as being this like critiquing power thing.
Okay,
because it's
so,
like you don't.
Yeah.
You're
so
not.
Let's talk about power. Let's talk about leverage.
Yeah. Okay.
Do I have more leverage against Kamala Harris before she's elected or once she's president for 4 years?
Well, in this, I mean, I see what you're saying, like as like a protest voter threat, but I don't know. Do the Democrats take that threat seriously, or is it like is it tendency to instead? Because I feel like
they should. They're doing politics. What the Democrat? Well, what if the Democrats just don't believe people when they say they won't vote for them? Isn't that the thing? I don't get it. Like I don't understand what motivates the thought process. I don't get it. I don't. I really truly don't understand it. I feel like I understand the fascists more. I genuinely do. Like I understand. I think I better understand this like all-consuming flame that burns on spite and suffering in the heart of the fascist. I understand that more than the idea of a person who's nominally liberal, but has views this illiberal. Well, okay, have you considered that maybe the Democrats don't care if you vote for them? Or whether or not you vote for them? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's beyond me. It's completely beyond me. I just don't understand it. Like, isn't the point to do politics? Sometimes I feel like the liberals around the Democratic Party care less about politics than a king would. Like a king would think, I should give this speech or offer this reprieve from the grain tax so that the peasantry feels gracious towards me when next the soldiers are drafted from the villages, or so. Like the king might be thinking like, well, I might literally not be elected, but it's still good to leverage people's beliefs and popularity. But the Democrats like operate from the assumption that they should just be in power just because, and the process by which you get into power is just meaningless. Like if it works out, it works out. If not, like they act like it's random sometimes.
This is where I keep getting back to.
I feel like a lot of Democrats feel that the protest voters are sort of unwinnable.
Mainstream Democrats, for one, leftists very consistently vote for Democrats, as evidenced by 2016 and 2020 with Bernie in the primaries, the voters shifting to Hillary or to Biden. For two, Democrats constantly fight to court independents and moderate Republicans. You really think moderate Republicans in a post-Trump era are a safer bet than people who just don't like the fact that you can't condemn Israel's genocide? Like that's really where the lines are. That's the easier bid. That's crazy. When I say that's crazy, what I mean is like that is a thought born of mental illness. Like that is a belief procured from a different reality, not the one that I and the data exists in. It's not defensible. It's utterly indefensible. Much in the same way that the Republicans seem to be motivated purely by hatred and a desire to see others suffer, this particular wing of the Democrats seems motivated by a desire to protect the Democrats from criticisms left of center, and that's it. It doesn't matter whether the criticisms are correct. It doesn't matter whether the policies the left offers are better. It doesn't matter whether a seating to the left would objectively win over more voters. It doesn't matter whether it would be better politics or better policy or better morally or better strategically. It's just no matter what, the Dems must be protected from criticisms from the left. That's it.
Are sort of like never happy, right? Whereas there are like centrist median voters that are more winnable, right? And that's, I think,
how is that?
How'd that work out?
Tragedy, and it tends to be the reaction to losing an election.
And
right?
how is that panning out? Who are these centrist voters? So this is you're completely right. This is the Democrats' belief. They believe that if they take Liz Cheney, the daughter of the architect of the Iraq War.
It's again, and I've said this before, but I'll repeat it here because I haven't said it in a little while. There is no such thing as a moderate centrist voter. It's literally not a real thing. They don't exist. You can't take people's perspectives on a spectrum and then it's like, oh, these people are generally left, these people are generally right, and then these people are generally moderate. That's not real. People largely fall into bimodal camps where they align with the general positions of the Republicans or the general positions of the Democrats. There is variance within that range, but not that much, especially not these days. And there are no moderate centrists, or at least very few. In reality, you have a very large number of they feel disenfranchised, independents who have a wide range of incoherent beliefs. These people are, by and large, stupid. If they weren't stupid, they would either believe in the correct positions on the left, or they would enjoy mass death and suffering on the right, in which case they'd still be stupid, but at least they'd be like ideologically consistent in a way, along with being stupid. I'm being serious about this, okay? Long have the moderate Democrats argued in favor of the existence of these people, but if you go to what one might call a moderate independent in America, they often have wildly out there views that can't be summarized with, oh, they're a moderate. For example, and I would bet money on this, my bet is that a majority of the independents in this country, people who would self-ID as independents, believe that a bunch of people should have gone to jail after 2008. Bunch of bankers, Bernie Madoff, whatever, should have gone to jail, or worse than jail. I think a lot of them would believe that too. I bet a lot of them would believe broadly that they're overtaxed, but would also believe that far more government money should be used to help the poor. I think they have a wide range of incoherent, largely populist beliefs that are kind of difficult to package and reconcile. A lot of them are probably really extreme in certain ways that don't really cleanly position them along the party line. You know what I mean? They don't have a consistent package of beliefs that makes it easy to sell a big party to them. The reason why Trump was able to get so many independents to support him, in spite of the fact that he is very hardline right, very unambiguously ooh rah, all Republican together. He was not a moderate Republican by any means, but somehow he was able to win over quite a few independents. And the reason for that is because his populist affectations worked with them. Bernie, likewise, did very well with independents. I think the reason Kamala Harris lost in 2024 was to a large extent because of Gaza, because it's, you know, bad and off-putting to support a genocide, in my opinion. Not just a genocide, too, also like the total fucking institutional servility we demonstrate to Israel. The fact that all of our politicians bend down and touch their foreheads to the ground and kiss the wall, and just sickening Israel first stuff that is obviously not a byproduct of some like legitimate interest in defending Jews from anti-Semitism or any kind of like sane economic policy or whatever. They don't do this for other minorities, right? They're not doing this shit for every politician isn't making a trip to the goddamn Minecraft Obsidian Cube to protect American Muslims. It's a ridiculous. It's obviously a form of servility. This is all very unpopular, but the reason Kamala Harris lost in 2024 was not because like the super far left people wouldn't vote for her. That's a part of it. The main reason is because she was uninspiring. She was very, very, very uninspiring. She is transparently, in many ways, uncharismatic. A lot of that's sexism and racism, by the way. I'm willing to acknowledge this. If Kamala Harris was a white guy, I think she very well would have won. But uncharismatic she remains. And very transparently insincere. Her positions changed between 2020 and 2024 by quite a bit. Her tone did. She just said she'd do more of what Biden was doing, even though Biden was unpopular at that time. She was uninspiring. So she depressed turnout from less engaged voters, which includes a lot of moderates, independents. You all understand what I'm saying here? Even if I was an amoral person, I would want the Democratic Party to change so that they could win. Even if Medicare for All wasn't a good way of saving money and saving lives, even if it's, you know, even if I didn't care about Gaza on moral grounds, having strong positions and knowing how to sell them to people is how you win elections. And the Democrats are very bad at it. And if you disagree, I do not know how to argue with you. I don't. If this spiel that I've offered, which is, by the way, unambiguously a pro-liberal spiel, I am advocating for political liberalism here. I have not mentioned a single thing about socialism, and every policy I've advocated for is popular with a broad swath of the Democratic Party. The voters, the regular voters. I haven't talked about socialism once. If you hear all of this and your response is still to defend the Democratic Party from their own incompetence, from accusations of their incompetence, I genuinely don't know how to reach you. I think in many respects you might be more unreachable than the average Republican, because there is a zeal that the Republicans they evoke in their voters, but Schumer evokes no zeal. You're not in the cult of personality of Schumer or Biden. Trump has a cult of personality. The Democrats don't. So I think that in many respects, the Republicans are actually more capable of being engaged with, at least from my perspective, because I understand the root of the emotional sickness that has taken them. I have no idea why you think this. You all get me, right? I just don't want to have to argue with the subreddit later. Look, I'm just advocating for liberalism here. I straight up think it's been like a year, maybe more than a year, since I really went on about socialism. It's not because I've stopped believing. It's because the bar is really fucking low. And like, I still agree with Marx in the idea that the best battleground to advocate for socialism is in a liberal democracy, which we right now basically don't have, and probably will have even less of in the near future. And I think that's in large part because the Democrats are illiberal. They are poor stewards of democracy. So I don't know. I guess we're just locked in this dance forever. We're just like forever and ever. Just the one rule is that no matter what, the Democratic Party can't be criticized. Any tool you could possibly use to pressure them, you can't do that, actually. They have a right to allow the republic to die.
To Dearborn, Michigan, America's largest Muslim population, and parade her around on the stage, that they are going to find some voter, some Midwestern war-loving voter who is so in love with Liz Cheney, a woman who lost her seat because she wouldn't subscribe to Trumpism, and that's somehow going to gin up votes for her.
I understand these are selectively clipped, but I'm going to be real with you. I genuinely can't imagine Contra responding with anything less stupid than the shit she was already saying. Though honestly, she seemed like she was barely there. Don't make me agree with BJG. No. This is not a pro Brianna Joy Gray post right now at all. Not even a little bit. Like, I don't know. Can you go over a response? I mean, I just watched like 6 minutes of her talking and she didn't say anything. I don't know. I feel, no. I feel like I've engaged. Contra seems really depressed. Something. I feel like all the globehead shit libs are depressed right now because they like are aware of the fact on some level that it's fucking over and the Democrats aren't getting us out of this, but they still won't let us criticize them. Somebody in chat mentioned Destiny. I know for a fact because I saw a clip. I know that Destiny's like, holy shit, the Republicans are fucking evil and they get away with everything that they want to do, and it feels like there's nothing we can do, and the everything's so skewed, and it feels like that. Like, I agree, but this is not a hole we can dig ourselves out of without fundamentally changing the Democratic Party. I'm sorry, it's not possible. That's what I mean. But I think that for a lot of them, they're like, well, we can't do that because that'd be lefty or whatever. So they operate on that assumption. And then from there, they're like, well, it's over, but we can't change the Democrats. It's over, but in a way other than the way the leftists say it. It's over in a different, trademark non-infringing way from the Democrats, or sorry, from the lefties. It's over, parentheses, the store generic brand. But it's not over in the lefty way, so we can't criticize the Democrats. I don't know. Come on. Doesn't it... Don't you get tired of getting fucked by both sides all the time? Doesn't it get tiring? I'm not even pro the Democratic Party in its current form, and I'm so fucking tired. I'm so fucking tired. It's so tiring. It's so tiring to wake up every day and like everyone, like 80% of the country, borderline 80% agrees that the country's fucking dying right now. And like, we can't even unite around like the most obvious first steps. Like, hey, maybe we should agree that the Democratic, so we agree the Republican Party's bad. Maybe the Democratic Party is doing their job badly. And then like in a specific set of ways, but no, they still want to argue about it. It's like, it's ideological motivation. They would argue I'm ideologically motivated. I am. I agree with it. Yeah, but I still think the arguments are sound. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't know how anyone could be motivated by the fervor that would drive you to acknowledge the fact that the Republican Party is an evil fucking terrorist pedophile organization, which it is, it factually is, and then to be like, I think Schumer's handling it. I know I'm strawmanning a little bit because they probably offer some criticisms, but at the same time, like, what criticisms can I offer that would not be dismissed by these globeheads as oh, bitter lefty, oh, you just want socialism. I do. It's true. I do want it. But I've accepted at this point that I'm not getting it. I've already emotionally dealt with that. Can I get liberalism? Can I get that? We got liberalism at home. Yeah, that's facts. That's true. Yeah, we all out of liberalism. Sorry, man. Liberalism machine's broken. Come back tomorrow. This is what liberalism looks like, Vaush. No, it just isn't. As recently as in the lifetime of my parents, there were American liberals who fought, not individuals, but like powerful people from within the Democratic Party who fought hard to preserve certain ideals. And they were effective. Not like Carter, I guess, but, you know,